Content is incredibly important. Let's start there. The manifestation of that content can find itself in so many different ways now that consumers will accept. At the end of the day, all of that content has to come together to tell a story. However, content can also manifest itself now in a series of tweets, in a series of GIFs, in a series of images. But they have to ladder together to tell that full story that you want your consumers to consume. And it has to be done so in a way that is meaningful and relevant and that will break through the clutter. In order to do that, sometimes you have to bypass the traditional ways of doing things. In the past, you would work with your agencies, you would go back and forth over months, you would create this fully baked, polished story, ad, whatever the case may be. And while that is still relevant today, there are so many other ways to connect with your consumer in a much more agile way, real-time and more culturally relevant, which can't take that long. And oftentimes you have to bypass that traditional methodology and go directly with those that are producing the content. In some cases, we'll use influencers and they will produce it for us, but they'll do it in such a way in their voice. And we as brands have to learn how to adapt to that in order to break through in today's world. In addition, we've worked with publishers directly. One of the most recent things we did is we did our new product launch, Cookie Layer Crunch, which is a Hershey bar with cookie bits in it and loads of layers of yumminess. And we did this big reveal on National Cookie Day on December 4th with Facebook. And we did a Facebook Live production with them. And we co-collaborated with them and we used their producers and their creative studio. And we bypassed our agencies to do that. At the same time, in order to support that digital pre-launch, we worked with influencers who also created content. But all this content that was created laddered up to a story about what the product is, what it means, and what it can do for the consumers. So as we think about brands telling stories, there's a few brands in our portfolio that have done a great job of telling stories in a modern way. One of which is Reese's. And so Reese's last year had experienced a lot of negative sentiment in social media on how the shape of our trees were looking to our consumers. You know, we don't have these polished molds, and so sometimes those shapes can look a little bit different than a traditional tree. And this started to spark a lot of conversation in social media. Media picked it up, and we took that and we said, wow, what do we do with this? But we had already set up our systems internally, and so what we were able to do with this was turn the conversation in our favor. And suddenly, consumers started to have our back and started to say, well, they don't look like turds. They are actually really yummy, and give me one of those and I'll have it any day. And we built a story around this, and with the theme of all trees are beautiful. Hashtag all trees are beautiful. As you can imagine, that has a tremendous amount of cultural insight of what's happening around us and how important it is to accept everyone in all shapes and sizes and images. And so we applied that to our trees, we applied that to what was happening, and suddenly it turned around like gangbusters. In fact, as a result of it, through a series of images and tweets and ultimately this full story, we turned sales around. And week over week over week, we got sales growth for Reese's. And that became part of our campaign. It was very interesting because in that sense, we didn't plan the story. We created a story based off of a momentum that was happening outside of us and to us. And instead we took that and made it a part of us.